Hey, Venture, it is that time of year again that we are going to be voting on a budget. Except this year, we're going to do a little different. As you know, we pay for everything that Venture does through the thing called the Venture One Fund. And traditionally what we would do is this time of year, we would go through our OGAP process, studying our objectives, our goals, and our action plans, assimilating a spending plan to present to the church on, hey, we're saying we want you to approve us spending money this way. The problem with the spending plan in the nonprofit world is it's the assumption that there's money there to spend. And so as you go through the year, it can get really difficult when you've created this rigid budget on how you're going to spend money and you don't even know you're going to have that money. And then when you're like us and it's a growing church, needs and priorities changes as the year goes on. So, man, I've been spinning my wheels for a while, kind of just praying and seeking the Lord on a better way to do that, that allows us the ability to make the changes we need to make positively or negatively, even if the ministry shrinks, which I don't think it's going to happen, but to be able to make those changes. And so I came up with an idea that I thought I actually came up with, and I can't say with integrity, I came up with it on my own, but I have since found out this is something the business world is now doing as well. And I actually talked to a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur, and his business coach is walking him through the same concept. So what is that concept? Well, instead of presenting to you, hey, we ask you to approve the pastors and trustees to spend Venture's One Fund in this way, we're coming to you with a different kind of budget. We're coming to you with, hey, we are asking you to prioritize what the money you give to Venture's One Fund will be spent on. In other words, we're asking you to approve a funding budget rather than a spending budget. And so throughout the year, the people, for instance, our lay pastors and trustees are the ones who oversee our personnel budget. And so they'll make those decisions based on how much money is going into that section, all of which is funded by Venture One Fund. So let me explain it. Here's how it works, all right? Imagine I've got 5 different buckets. Venture's One Fund will put money into those buckets. So when you donate money to Venture's One Fund, we're proposing that it goes into the buckets this way, all right? So you write a check to Venture and it goes to Venture's One Fund. We're proposing that 10% of that check goes into our global missions bucket, all right, goes in there. And whether that money's spent this year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now, every dollar you give, 10% goes into that bucket for our global missions team under the leadership of our pastors and under the accountability of our trustees. We'll spend that money to reach, particularly right now, we're targeting the people group of Darfur. But as you know, our vision for global missions is people who have no access to the gospel. So our missions team will then dream and seek the Lord on how they can take the money that's coming from Venture's One Fund into that bucket. 10% of every dollar that goes to one fund goes into that bucket. And then as pastors, we'll oversee that. Trustees hold that accountable so that it's all done with integrity. The second bucket is our savings bucket. Now, I know some of you as an American, you're like, what savings? That's this account that you can set up at the bank where you put money in it that you think you're going to need one day, and so you're not going to spend it right now. And so we've put 6%. That's the number we feel is responsible given our current income, given our current needs. We'd like to have a higher percentage in that. I know in a lot of situations you have financial planners advise you, 10% at minimum in your savings. We just can't get there right now. And next year maybe we'll vote on that. All right. So this year we're saying, hey, we want to put 10% on global missions, 6% on the bucket of savings. And then here's the rest of that, all right? We have 5 buckets. Personnel. Typical churches go from 45% to 60% of their budget is personnel costs. Most ministry is people. We feel a good conservative number for Venture is 50. And so we've set that as our deal. And we're basing these numbers on what we currently spend, what we need, and what's currently coming in. All right. So we've done our homework to know that we feel like these buckets match our current needs and we're not going to end up in a mess. All right. So personnel bucket would be 50%. Our trustees and our lay pastors determine how that's spent. They determine my salary and everybody else's salary. So if a lot of money's going in, they might give me permission to go hire another staff member. If not enough money's coming in, they might tell me her salaries are getting cut or worse, So 10% to missions bucket, 6% to savings bucket, 50% to personnel bucket. That leaves 2 more buckets. Operations, that's how we pay the light bill, the insurance, all that kind of stuff. And based on our studies, that needs to be 23%. And then our program budget that pays for youth camp, kids camp, all those kind of things is set at 11%. So real quick, in review, what we're proposing is that Venture Church approves a funding budget that has 5 buckets for Ventures One Fund to put money into. That as Venture donates money to Ventures One Fund, our financial secretary would be approved by Venture Church to put 10% in the missions bucket, 6% in the savings bucket, 50% in the personnel bucket, 23% in the operations bucket, and 11% in the program bucket. And as we fill those buckets, the trustees will oversee how those buckets get spent, as well as our pastors and the people who are over each one of those. You'd be getting a report once a quarter on what's going on with those buckets and what God's doing through that. And then next year, we'll come back to you and say, hey, this is what we think the percentage of those buckets should continue being or change to be, and then we would vote on that again. So I know that's a new approach. If you have questions, feel free to email any of our trustees. They're all on our website. Any of our pastors, it's all on our website. We'd love to be able to answer your questions. On March 22nd, we're going to have a church vote in all of our services on this presentation. And it's always an exciting time. If you're new to church, it goes really fast. Don't worry. If you grew up as a kid and you had nightmare business meetings, we don't have those, all right? So it's really just a celebration of what God's doing. But if you do have questions, you need to ask those in advance. So contact us. We'd love to interact and walk you through it. So excited what God's doing, and I look forward to seeing you soon.